Hey yo, hey, hey, baby, I'm ready, oh, hey yo, hey.
Hello, and welcome to One Spirit Walker. My name is Tanya. Today we're going to be talking about Jennifer Marie Peters. She went missing on June 6th, 2007. She was last seen near McKellips and Country Club, the 1900 block of Country Club in Mesa, Arizona. She was born September 10th of 1983. She had some medical issues, some psychiatric issues when she was last seen. So there are some medical concerns about her. Well, we're going to take a look at this chart because it's been a while, 2007, see if we can't come up with some more information to help maybe solve this case and bring some closure to the family. Thank you for watching. And I need to give the disclosure that this is for entertainment purposes only. Thank you. To start, as always, we're going to give credit to the books that were used. Kirsty McIntosh, Criminal Astrology, Volume 1. Couldn't have done it without this book. The Rulership book, Rex Bills, very helpful book. And Planets in Transit by Robert Hand. Photos contained within this video of Jennifer Peters were obtained through the Charlie Project. You can check out their website for more information. This is Jennifer's last seen chart. It was for June 6, 2007 at 3:30 a.m. From what I understand, she was leaving her home. I'm not clear what kind of home that was, whether it was an apartment. Looked at was what this chart says about Jennifer. And to do that, we're going to look at Taurus. Venus rules Taurus, so we're going to look at Venus in Leo. We're going to look at the moon in Aquarius. Possible descriptions for Taurus could include a short, thick stature, possible high forehead, wide nose, wide, short neck, short arms, thick hands or pointy hands, short legs, someone that may be slow to anger but hard to please once angered. They may have an issue of hard to please that may stick with them for a long period of time. A lower lip bigger than the top, someone who's courteous and outwardly happy. And when we look down here at Leo, we might look at somebody who has an obvious wide gait, a possible history of heart problems, possible history of back problems, possibly scoliosis, someone with blonde, red, or light hair, more than likely thick, a round face, a ruddy complexion, maybe even rosacea. If we look at the moon up here in Aquarius, it's up here in the top part of the chart in the 10th house. That's telling us possibly her emotions are on display for the world to see, which if you look at her missing case, that pretty much describes that. One of the things that also describes is a northwest direction from where she was last seen. And it also can indicate a spot that's good for public relations, which I'm hoping will be good in this case, because if we look at the timing of the chart on when we might see some possible resolution of this case, because it's in the 10th house, it should have been sooner. But if this chart is just a little bit off, then that could put this 19-degree moon in the 11th house. And if that's the case, then that's putting us at 19 years down the road or indefinitely. So 19 years down the road would be 2026. So hopefully, maybe if we get this information out, hopefully maybe we can find her and have some resolution by 2026. That'd put us 19 years out. Something else that shows, I don't typically look at the sun. It is opposite Jupiter, so I'm just looking a little bit at it for what might be going on. But the sun in Gemini can show us um, probably her biracial. That's probably what that's showing. The next thing I wanted to look at was what might possibly be going through her mind when she was last seen. And for that, one of the things I am looking at is she's in a 12th house profected year. It's a 12th house perfection. And that's a lot of times people with a 12th house year, you can find yourself in ashrams, in the hospital, psychiatric places, prisons, kind of hidden, alone, and isolated. So that right there in one aspect describes possibly how she was feeling. And then I'm also wanting to look at the moon made a recent contact with Chiron. It makes me wonder if there was a recent wounding. I did a necrophonic that I'll post as soon as I finish looking through it, but from what I heard evicted at one point. So I don't know if her housing situation, if any of that happens to be true. That would be something we would have to look at the family to answer those questions. And then I noticed also the moon being opposite Saturn. And for that, I'm going to refer back to Robert Hand's book and read to you what he said. I'll show you here if you can possibly see it. Oh, it might work, might not. This transit, although brief, can have a disruptive effect on your relationships. The problem is that it tends to make you feel very lonely and isolated, as if there is no one you can communicate with. And this can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Perhaps unconsciously, you send out signals to others declaring that you do not want to be bothered, that you would like to be alone. You may get into a depressed mood that baffles the people around you, so they give up on you for the time being and stop trying to help you. There is a strong tendency to look on the dark side of life and to react much more strongly to disappointments and failures than to reinforcement from others and success. Thus, you plummet down into depression for no reason at all. That's Robert Hand's exact words. And sometimes just hearing the words from the book can describe it even better than what I can describe. And if we go to look at another page with Saturn opposite Moon, we see right here it says, this transit represents an alienation crisis. That is a crisis brought about by the discovery that you have been neglecting your emotional and psychological needs. As a result, you feel alone and disconnected from others, like an alien in the world whom no one else can ever adequately understand. So I think that gives us a pretty good description of what she may have possibly been feeling that night. One of the questions I had that was not clear when I researched her was if she left on foot or by car. And according to the chart, I'm thinking that she probably left on foot. If she did take a car, she took a car somewhere and then went on foot. And we can see this if we look at Mars in the 12th house. 12th house rules feet. And when you get a fire under your feet, sometimes after you've been depressed for a while, I'm speaking from past experience as a nurse and past personal experience. Sometimes when you see someone who's been depressed, they get enough energy to hurt themselves. And sometimes they need to let that energy out. Sometimes fire in the feet, going for a walk, exercising, sometimes that helps. So that's one thing right there that makes me wonder if she wasn't on feet. Another thing, the third house rules walking, Mercury rules walking. Mercury is in the third house. I'm willing to bet she was walking and walking in the emotional state we discussed. Was Jennifer Peters alone when she went missing? I'm wanting to say she was alone. I'm looking here at Venus, her ruler, and it is not making any aspects. You can see this red line on here that might be, because there's a lot of lines in here, it might confuse some people, but it's just actually right here at the midheaven, but it's not making any contact with any actual planets, no traditional contact. So that's telling me that she was most likely alone. Assuming she did go on a walk, what was her walk like? I'm wondering, because was recently in Cancer and it just moved over to Leo. It makes me wonder if she went over water to get where she ended up, where this chart is pointing at. Another thing we can look at is the first house rules one's walk. And if we look at some of the things that Taurus rules, it can rule yards around the home. It can rule coordination, cough, bronchioles, tongue, swallowing. It can rule cattle, culture, farms, shade, fields, feeding places for animals, gourds, hogs, pigs, a hoarse voice, landscaping, oral ducts, and workers. So those could have been some of the things that she's seen along on her walk when she went for a walk, assuming she went for a walk. The next question I looked at was if she is still alive. One of the things I looked at was Pluto in the 8th house. This is Robert Hand's book here. In many ways, Pluto is at home with this transit, since its symbolism is very closely related to that of the 8th house. Both relate to death and resurrection symbolically as well as literally. Another thing I looked at was the ruler of the 8th house is Jupiter, and it's on the cusp of the 8th house, opposing her identity. That doesn't necessarily mean death, but that doesn't seem like it's a good sign. The sun not only rules her identity, it also rules the end of the matter. So the fact that the ruler of death is opposing the ruler of the end of the matter doesn't seem right. Or good, I should say, is for whether we're going to find her alive. Now, also, her ruler is in the 4th house with the end of the matter. Sometimes you look to Saturn for a possible body, and it is in the end of the matter. And DNA is also at the end of the matter. So what possibly happened to Jennifer? We're guessing she probably went for a walk. And if we look at the 4th house can indicate a north position. And remember, this moon was telling us it was northwest. This is telling us north. This is also telling us it's near fields, possibly orchards, tillage of earth, ancient dwellings. We also want to consider the sign that it's in, Leo. Leo can be land reservations, trees, the color yellow, woods, hills, iron, animals, parks, possibly near fire or where fire has been, deserts. It rules the left eye in a woman. It rules brain, blood, vital forces. It rules the heart, rules heat exhaustion, heart palpitations, the back, fatherhood. To give a few examples, when we look back up here at the 10th house, because the moon is here, it's really close to Neptune, which makes me wonder if she could have possibly been having some delusions. Neptune can also rule substances, substance use, alcohol, medicines, and water. But because of her condition, I'm wondering a little bit maybe if it was delusions. And we were talking a little bit earlier about her mental state. And I just wanted to add on a little bit about some personal experience on people with schizophrenia and how hard it is for them. I spent some time studying in a children's hospital that had a lot of children with schizophrenia in there, and looking at their pictures, the things they would draw, the things they would see, it's like living a horror movie every single day of your life, and there's no way to control it and no way to get out of it. And so if you can imagine the stuff that I've already discussed with you in this chart, and possibly how she may have been feeling if she recently switched medications. I'm knowing this from the perspective of a nurse. I used to work as a nurse. If she's gone off her medications, we don't know exactly the extent her state of mind had gotten to. But according to this chart, it looked like she was in a pretty tough position. And I am wondering if she didn't go for that walk, like we talked about, Mars here in the 12th house, fire under her feet. I'm wondering if she didn't go in a northwest direction. As a matter of fact, here's what it looks like when you put Jennifer's chart up on Scribble Maps. Right here was where she was last seen. I actually used the planets. I didn't even go, the chart itself said north and northwest, and these lines point north, northwest. So we're following this line out to this direction, Alma School and McDowell area. If there's anyone here that owns these fields all in this area, remember some of the things we talked about on her walk. This is quite a ways to walk, but if she had a lot of energy, she could have possibly gotten dehydrated. It was 83 degrees when she left that morning, and it's still possible, even at 83 degrees, that doesn't seem very hot. But if she hadn't had enough to drink, and depending on her state of mind, she could have wandered out here, got heat exhaustion, passed out under a tree, and nobody found her. Remember, it rules trees. And if we're looking for a tree in specific, yellow was one of the colors. This time, the time of year that she disappeared, we would be looking at mesquite trees being yellow. So if I were to look at a tree where she might be, I would look under a mesquite tree, or possibly where a mesquite tree used to be, because of the fact that there could have been a fire. I do know there were fires up in this area, but I'm not sure if it was exactly this area. This area is also reservation. I could not determine whether she was from this reservation. I don't think it has any correlation. I think she just happened to walk that way, and this happens to be away from people. As you can see, all these houses down here. If you want to get away and get away from people, up this direction is going to be the way to go. Thank you for watching. As I mentioned before, I did do a necrophonic interview as well after I had taken a look at this chart, and there is some correlations. Even there's at one point you can hear a cow moo on the necrophonic. I need to go and edit it and see what all I can get down on there for you guys, but hopefully I'll get that out for you soon. And please, if anybody knows people in this area of the reservation that could just check and keep their eye out, it's possible she might be partially buried, depending on if there were fires put out there, dust blowing, just regular vegetation growing that direction. And help spread the word. She's somebody's daughter, somebody's mother is out there needing some answers, somebody's sister, somebody's cousin. So if you look, 5 fingers, that makes her our sister. That makes her our cousin. That makes her our family. So please spread the word. See if we can't help find her and bring some resolution to her family. Thank you for watching.
Hey yo, hey, hey, baby, I'm with it, oh, hey, yo, hey.